We are part of the Fired Up Sports Network of shows. Please check out other Fired Up Sports Network podcasts like the P-Lot Pod, Water Cooler Talk, Bell Smashers, Philly Sports Love and Pain, Drunk on Broad, Beer Battered Sports, and the Fired Up Sports Show, which are available on all major podcasting hosting sites and social media. Also, check out Mark Ramos' Roundup on firedupsports.com, which breaks down the happenings going on with all your favorite local teams.
You're listening to Drunk on Broad, Philly Sports Unfiltered! From Broad Street down to the bank, we bleed red, green, black, blue, and gray. Racial classes, game day pride, Philly's hardware, drunk on the ride. The AGLES flying high tonight, Six Stars lights up, the sky's so bright. Flyers crash like thunder on the ice. Philly swinging, everything's nice. Union chanting, passion loud and raw. City of grit, we break every law. Down, drunk on broad. No, we don't sleep. City of champions, running deep. For another round, let's make it loud. Feel it forever. We're Broad Street proud. Drunk on Broad. Yeah, we're home. Drunk on Broad.
Philly! Got you guys good. What's up, guys? We're Drunk on Broad. I'm Rich, Don, and Joe, and joined tonight our special guests from NBC Sports, the Eagle Eye podcast, Dave Zangaro. Dave, thank you for joining us.
Of course, guys. How's it going?
Man, it's going. It's definitely going. Draft season, free agency's upon us. Don, Joe, Dave, it feels good. Feels good. Feels
Yeah,
good.
I mean, Dave, I hope that the information that we get tonight puts goosebumps on our goosebumps.
That's our eagle eye. We've had that read for so long. People know it though. We get like emails all the time. People saying that goosebumps on goosebumps. It's become like a fun little gag for us.
Yeah, it's just to kind of get into it, you were out at the combine. Give us kind of your summary on kind of what you saw, what you think, what kind of direction they might go.
Yeah, well, it's funny because like when I go to the combine, like everyone thinks about the combine being about the prospects, and it is for a lot of people. That's not really why I'm there. I'm still catching up on a bunch of draft stuff. I'm kind of there for the NFL side of it all, and then it's funny after a season. I feel like I'm playing catch up with draft stuff because it's like, yeah, I watch college football, but like you watch it through a different lens when it comes to the actual draft. So uh, playing catch up a little bit there, but like I think we know the positions they kind of need in the draft, and yeah, if you're talking about that stuff, like offensive line to me is like long term need, short term need. Like it's kind of rare that they've gone this long without heavily investing in the offensive line in the draft, and I think they've wanted to in recent years, and the value of where they've picked just hasn't really lined up. So, not that you want to like force it when you get to the draft, but yeah, I think I'd be pretty shocked if we get into this draft and they don't draft a lineman pretty high, and then if they don't draft at least a couple, I think that it's a spot where they know they need to replenish, and I don't know what it's going to look like now with a new offensive line coach, but I don't think the organization has changed their philosophy of building through the trenches. So in that aspect of the combine, like, yeah, I think offensive line to me kind of goes to the top of the list.
Yeah.
Dave, the giant hole at tight end. Any enticement to look at a guy like Kenyon Sadiq, whose numbers kind of jump off the table here?
Dude's
Yeah,
a freak.
sure. Yeah, he's an absolute freak. Some of these numbers you've seen out at the combine are just we read them and you don't really like understand what it means that a guy runs a sub 4.4 at that size.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's an excellent player, and um, they haven't drafted a tight end in the first round since 1988, so it's been a really long time. But typically, there aren't that many tight ends that go super high, and the Eagles in general like haven't drafted a lot of tight ends. You know, Howie has been the GM since 2010. He drafted Ertz in 13. I think he drafted was it Clay Harbor in 10, Ertz in 13.
Clay Harbor.
Goddard in 18, and then Grant Calcaterra in what was that, 21. So like he just hasn't drafted a ton of tight ends. So um, yeah, it's a spot where if the value lines up with the Kenyon Sadiq, I think it makes sense. Uh, Now, will that be the right move at that point? Like, I don't know. I don't know
Yeah.
who else is going to be on the board, but yeah, he's an intriguing player for sure. Like, it's funny because he's more of a pass catcher, but he's also like an okay blocker. I think it's funny. We've kind of like swung the pendulum so much that people don't realize he's a functional blocker. He's not going to be like an inline, like a prototypical. He's not like Gronk, you know, but like he's gonna give you a little bit as a blocker, and it is a spot. You're right. Like they don't have anything at tight end. It's
Yeah.
their top three tight ends are going to be free agents. We'll see what happens with Dallas Goedert. Right now, I think it's unlikely he'll be back, but things can change. Like that's the thing about free agency that people kind of forget is like every team starts off with a tentative plan, but then things change and markets change, and then you have to pivot. So, like I remember a few years ago, um, the Eagles ended up like really misplaying a market. And then they had all this extra money, and they were like, "Well, let's bring back James Bradbury." Like it's just like things end up changing. That you just have to have contingency plans. So like if they're not able to get Jalen Phillips back, then all of a sudden you have like all this chunk of money that you planned on spending on this player. Now you have to
Yeah.
use it elsewhere, and you have to scramble to do it. So I wouldn't say that it's like a definitive thing that Goddard's not back. I think they'd like to bring him back, but either way, like the nice situation they're in with Goddard is that he's old enough now that even if he's back, they still have to plan for the future there if they can.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's a deep tight end class. I know there were, I think, 27 tight ends at the combine. There is a drop off. Sadiq's clearly the top guy, and I think there's a drop off after that.
Yeah. My question to you is because I found one of the funniest videos of what I was watching was, I guess it was Jordan Tyson just absolutely dogging it. Was there just miscommunication, or do you think he was dogging it? Because the video that I watched where he just gave up on that deep ball was pretty
Oh no,
telling.
I didn't see that actually. He's a great player though.
Yeah, I mean he won the best wide receiver award for college,
Yeah.
and it was on ESPN, and they were showing it like he wasn't listening to what was said, and then all of a sudden the ball's thrown about 30 yards over his head, and then he finally looks up, tries to catch up to it, and misses it. And then they were trying to say that
Sometimes those
he's
on
clearly
field,
trying to go to where he wants to go.
yeah, I don't know. Sometimes those on-field drills can be a little tricky because it's like guys get nervous and then they kind of figure. It's like I love that. I forget which tight end it was a few years ago where he didn't think there was another ball coming and he catches one and then he has to one hand the other one. Like sometimes those on-field drills are a little weird, and sometimes even like the times guys run, like a guy run a bad time and it's like, all right, like if he's fast on tape, it kind of supersedes it. And yeah, I don't think a Jordan Tyson can hide. Like I don't think a guy like that's gonna fall very far because he screws up one catch in a drill. It's like there's enough tape on him.
This show he's that good.
Yeah, like people know those players, like they're not hiding one way or the other. Now, if there's something gets leaked about a player, that can, like, if you think back to the gas mask incident with
Laramie
Tunsil, like that stuff is real. Like that stuff can drop a guy, but yeah, like screwing up a route in the that's not going to be enough to drop a guy like that.
He just does not want to be a Jet. But
Rich, I think that was Makai Lemon from USC.
Was it Makai Lemon?
I think it was
USC?
Makai because I remember his interview was something
different.
to see.
Yeah. It's funny too because I read the transcript of that interview, and like if you just read the transcript, it's like pretty normal, and then you see the tape and you're like, all right, well it's a little weird. I don't know the kid, but it was a little strange.
Yeah, that cracks me up. But no, I mean it's a good time right now. Looking at it for like the pre-draft stuff and the free agency, it's kind of intriguing. If you want to jump into, what do you want to jump into, Don? Do you want to do free agency first
So,
and then the draft?
but Dave, you mentioned and that glaring need to kind of rebuild that offensive line, and thinking about the new offensive line coach. What are the prospects that you think kind of fit the direction that they might go into more of like a Shanahan style offense?
Yeah, it's a little tricky to figure out. Like, look, we know the basics of what they're going to run.
Right.
So maybe like they get a little smaller, more mobile up front, but it's not like they've had guys that are statues either. They've
Yeah,
Right.
they have athletes. They've been bigger. Certainly, like the guard position, they've had Stoutland definitely preferred bigger guards. We saw that going back to Brandon Brooks and then Isaac Sayamalu. Like Cam Jurgens was kind of undersized in terms of their measurables for guard, and then you see Landon Dickerson, obviously a huge guy. So maybe that changes a little bit, but you still want guys who can move. You still want.
yeah,
I don't think having a big body precludes anyone. And like right now, we'll see where these guys end up. But there are a bunch of offensive linemen that seem to kind of line up with where they're picking at 23 in terms of value. Like you never know. Like Monroe Freeling from Georgia is someone who I thought had a great combine. People are saying maybe he's a top 15 guy now. Like maybe, but it's funny. Whenever the draft comes around, there's always talk that like, oh, that guy will never be there at this pick. I've heard that about Sadiq, and like, okay, maybe not, but think about the last three drafts and the
Yeah.
Eagles, like who they've gotten. Like
Jihad
Jalen Carter
Campbell.
wasn't supposed to be
Yeah.
there at 9.
Yeah.
Nolan Smith wasn't supposed to be there at 30.
Yeah.
Quinyon Mitchell wasn't supposed
Quinyon,
to be
right.
there at 22.
Right.
Cooper at what 40, and then last year Jihad Campbell at 30 or 31. So it's like sure we can play that game, but there's
Yeah.
always surprises. Guys always fall, and yeah, I think that like a Monroe Freeling to me would be at the top of the list. The kid from Arizona State, Max Ihanachor, who's like a fascinating guy because he didn't really play high school football, but he's a super athlete. And if you're going to bring someone in, like they're in a position where you have Lane Johnson back for a year. I'd rather kind of take a dart throw on traits. Not that you want to take a guy who's like
Yeah.
completely raw, but if you can take a dart throw on traits and have a chance to develop them, I like that. Now the problem is the guy who's been so good at developing offensive linemen for the last 13
He's
years
gone. Yeah.
Yeah,
isn't there anymore. But I don't think
Right.
that can't stop you either, right? Like you have to have
Right.
faith in the
Yeah.
staff that you put together, the coach that you have, that they're going to be able to develop these guys. They might not be as successful, but I don't think it can necessarily like change the way you go about the draft.
Yeah, I think they have definitely done a significant job at rebuilding that offensive staff. In your heart of hearts, Dave, the AJ Brown situation, how do you think that ends up playing out?
Yeah, I think it could go either way right now. I'm still leaning toward him not being here in 2026. And it's like right now we're seeing it play out publicly. Like that's all this is. There's a lot of posturing. And this is how negotiations work. It's funny, every year around this time, it's like we've never seen negotiations before. Like that's how it starts. You ask
Right.
for a lot, teams act like there's no way in heck they'd ever do that, and then eventually you kind of try to meet in the middle. So the Eagles should ask for a lot, and
Yeah.
it's I think it's very clear what's happening here is that yes, they're asking for a lot. They should ask for a lot. They're going to try to bluff as much as they can because they're not going to give away a really good player. Now we'll see what kind of leverage they have. I think there's a chance that you look at that back end of the first round. There are now a lot of teams that would want AJ Brown, I think, and if you can get those guys kind of bidding against each other, I think he's worth a first round pick. I know that some people don't think he is. They're not going to get a first and second for him, but I do think he is worth a first round pick. Maybe there's a late round pick swap involved somewhere there, but I think he's still a really valuable player, and I think it's also possible that it's run its course here. And if you could guarantee that you bring back AJ Brown, he's bought in, he's motivated, he wants to be here. I think ultimately, like that would be the best thing for the team. He's still a great player. I don't know if you can guarantee that, and I don't even know if you right now, if he says he wants to be here and you get that from him, that worries me a little bit, right? Like, what happens if it's week
Yeah.
2 and all of a sudden he's not happy again? And then and the problem last year wasn't that he was upset. And like, I think there are like people don't realize his teammates love him.
Yeah.
For the most part, the staff loves him. But the problem in my eyes last year was that all the frustration showed up on the field. That can't happen, right? Like
Yeah.
if we're talking about AJ Brown like an elite player, he was not an elite player last year. He just wasn't. He was really good. I think he's still capable of being an elite player, but he looked like a frustrated player, and
Yeah.
I don't. I think that's bad for the team to have a frustrated player who's that important, who's a captain out there. So if you could guarantee that everything was going to work out great, you'd want him back for sure. I don't know if you can guarantee that.
Yeah, you brought it up in your article that you wrote yesterday, when I was reading it, and you said that it has to be a wow offer. The Eagles need to be wowed because of basically the financial hit. You broke it down how much money that they're going to save. Um, it's like I forget what you said, 40 something million is something that they're going to have to eat, and it's like me looking at it from a fan's point of view, and like if I'm GM, I'm like, dude, I don't want to eat that money unless it's for an offer that I can't refuse. Like, do I want to trade him to New England for the 31st overall pick? No, I don't want to. Maybe it isn't the best interest because that's what you're going to be able to get. But looking at it in that late round pick, it's kind of like we seen Tennessee when they said, "Hey, we can get rid of AJ Brown and we'll draft his replacement." I think he had more catches in his first 4 weeks than Traylon Burks did for Tennessee his whole career. So it's worrisome to not know what the haul is, and then you see the Trent McDuffie trade today for another elite player, obviously a different position, but you're like, well, if the Rams can get that for him, what can we get for AJ? So do you see like in the realm of possibilities, maybe not a 1 and a 2, but kind of like a haul for what Trent McDuffie got, being he's still an elite player, or do you think it's just it would be a 1 and like you're gonna deal with it and that's gonna be it?
Yeah, I think it'd be a 1. Like I don't think it'd be a huge haul. Right now the talk is Quinnen Williams. That's been the reported
Yeah,
ask.
that's a
It,
ton.
it is a 1 and a 2. That's not going to happen. I don't think that's in the cards for them. I do think you can get a 1. Opinions are really split. I think some teams are like, well, we're not giving up a 1 for him, but that's again a part of the negotiation. I do think he's still worth the 1. Now, look, I think the Eagles lose some leverage based on the way last season played out.
Yeah.
They just do. Like if teams think that you need to trade this guy, and that's kind of what we're seeing now, is the Eagles basically try to tell the world we don't need to trade this guy. We'll hold on to him, and that's the right tactic because you don't want to look like you're making a trade from a place of need. You want to look like, like we'll listen to offers. If you wow us, maybe we'll trade him, maybe not. That's the right play. Howie's good at this. Like he knows the tactics to play. I don't think it's going to be like. I don't think it's gonna be a 1 and a 2. Maybe there's a day 3 sweetener that makes Howie feels like he won the trade more, but I don't think it's going to be anything significant.
Maybe we get Mozzie Smith
Yeah.
in the trade. I don't know. That sweetens the deal for me.
Dave, can I throw a player for player to you?
Sure.
Like what if the player for player swap is a Max Crosby, AJ Brown player swap?
Yeah, I've heard that. I don't know if it would necessarily work out. I don't. I think if
I think that would make it sting a little bit less.
it would make it sting less. If I'm the Raiders, I want picks.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
like at that point, I think the Eagles would need to sweeten the deal. To be honest with you,
Ugh.
Really?
Do that.
yeah, I think like if we're just all things equal, who brings back more? I think it will be Crosby bringing back more than AJ Brown. But like if I'm the Raiders, I don't know if I want a 28-year-old receiver to pair with my rookie quarterback. I think they're going to want picks. They have a lot of work to do on that roster. I think they'd prefer the picks if they can for Max. And I think they should trade Max Crosby. They've gotten a lot of use out of him, but they need a serious rebuild out there. And the way to do that is with picks, not with getting a 28-year-old receiver. I get it, like from the perspective of two players who want to be moved, maybe. it would make it feel better. I get that. I just don't think it makes a ton of sense for the Raiders.
Yeah.
I guess you shouldn't have drafted Ashton Genty in the top 7. Like I just don't understand what that was for. Yeah, let's not protect Geno Smith. It's okay. We don't need to do that.
Dave, where do you see them going? Obviously you talked about offensive line being probably their main focus in the first round. And if they don't take one, most likely take one in the second. Where else do you see their where lining up to where they would want to pick in what position? Maybe like second round, third round.
Yeah, so tight end is one just because they're so bare at tight end. Even if they don't draft Sadiq in the first round, they're going to need to draft the tight end. I would think at some point in these 7 rounds, they have to fill out a roster. So tight end on offense, I could see a receiver, depending even like maybe regardless of AJ Brown. I don't think they'd go super high on a receiver if AJ's here, but uh, no Jahan Dotson. How much do you trust Darius Cooper? I like the player a lot, but I don't know if you can really rely on him. And then on defense, I've heard people suggest they draft a corner high to pair with Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. I don't think I would do that. I think they're going to go the veteran route there, whether it's Adoree Jackson or some like Adoree adjacent type player, like just a veteran to plug and play. I think that makes more sense at that position. I guess safety is a possibility. The position on defense, I think, does make a lot of sense as edge rusher. And now we'll see what happens with Jalen Phillips. I don't want to say all in on Jalen Phillips, but he'd be my top priority in free agency. The projections are kind of all over the place for him, but I'd try to bring that guy back. But I could see them drafting an edge player relatively high because they don't have a lot of players there right now. They have just in terms of bodies, they're going to have Jalix Hunt. They're going to have Nolan Smith. We'll see about Jalen Phillips. And they have a couple of guys on futures deals. So, and the nice thing about when you draft an edge player is they're going to play. Whereas on the offensive line, if you draft a tackle, everyone stays healthy, he's not playing. But you draft an edge player in the first or second round,
he's playing.
He's going to play, at least as a rotational guy. So, that's always intriguing to me. And I think there are some players from a value perspective that do line up there a little bit. In the first round, the Keldrick Falk is a guy that might line up at that 23 spot.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd like Mesidor from the U. That'd be
yeah,
fun.
he's an intrigue. So it's funny. It's like there's all the edge players in this first round territory. They all have questions. Other, even Ruben Bain has the questions now about the short arms, which that's a real thing. It's
they are short.
Yeah, I wouldn't not draft him because of that, but
such a monster.
It's a legitimate question. Shedding blocks in the NFL is a big deal. Bailey maybe is the only guy at that position that doesn't really have any question marks. But yeah, I think there are some decent edge players that are going to go in the first round.
Matt Campbell really ruined it for us short arm guys. That's all I'm saying. He had to put us all on blast at the Super Bowl. Get beat like a drum. Now you got short arms. You're out. You're out. You're out.
Dave, you mentioned bringing back Jalen Phillips. The word on Dallas Goedert recently is kind of more that he goes rather than stays. What about between Dallas Goedert, Reed Blankenship, Fred Johnson, what do you see in terms of guys that they might bring back from this last year's roster?
Yeah, I think Reed's probably going to go, and I don't know what the market is going to be for him. The Eagles are anticipating it being significant. Now, you watch the safeties in the draft or at the combine, you go, well, I don't know if I'm paying Reed Blankenship $10 million a year, but I think his market's going to be in the $9 to $11 million range. And he's a nice player. I think he's been really steady for them. I don't think he's a $10 million a year player. And for the most part, the Eagles don't pay players that mid-range salary. They have guys they pay a lot to, but I think generally they like to pay those blue chippers, so to speak, those top of the market guys, and then supplement that with cheap talent that you find in the draft. Signing Reed Blankenship to a competitive deal to me just doesn't make a lot of sense. So, like, would you rather have Reed Blankenship for 10 mil a year, or would you rather have Marcus Epps for 2 mil a year? Like,
Yeah.
obviously, Reed's a better player, but is he $8 million better than Marcus Epps? I don't think so. And look, it stinks to lose a guy like Reed Blankenship, a guy who's homegrown. You had him here as an undrafted player. He earned his spot, but he earned money too. And I think another team's going to give it to him.
Yeah. What about we know offensive line depth is a thing. Do you think that it's more likely that Fred Johnson comes back or that he gets an opportunity to start again on
Yeah, I don't
another
know
team?
what Fred's thinking. That's the thing. He tried to go somewhere else last year, thought he'd have a good chance to start, and it just didn't work out. I would think at his age, he's in his late 20s. If he's ever going to get a chance to be a full time starter, like it might need to be this year. So I'm sure that he'd like his agent to try to find him a landing spot where he has a legitimate chance to at least compete for a
Yeah.
starting job. Especially because we saw him try to do that last year and it didn't quite work. But the Eagles will be open to bringing him back. And you'd also say the same thing about Brett Toth, who to me might be like as big a priority as Fred Johnson in a way. I thought Toth played
Okay.
really well last year at guard and center when he got the chance. I mean, there was a chance he would have been a better center than Cam Jurgens for a lot of last year.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's for sure.
yeah, I know that the Eagles are interested in bringing him back, but he's going to have offers too. So you can't break the bank for backups, but they're in a situation where the backups are important. You have guys who have missed time, guys who have injury concerns, and a guy in Lane Johnson who's in year 14 now. So you have to at least have some backup depth. I like their young players. We just don't know much about them at that position, whether it's like a Drew Kendall or Miles Hinton or Cameron Williams. Like I think all those guys have potential, but you probably can't rely on them too much this year.
Yeah.
What about I know people have talked about it before, and I know he was here and had good success, but he also had Jeff Stoutland, kind of keeping everything together with that squad last year and the year before. But Mekhi Becton, I mean, I know they're talking. I don't know if he's been officially been released.
He got
You
released
know,
today, yeah.
but I mean, I guess it depends on their blocking scheme and how he would fit into the new offensive line coach's schematics. But I mean, just based on the familiarity and him, even if he's just a backup, I mean, he's a reliable player who, he had success here.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen, honestly. And if he comes here, I think he would be a backup. I thought Tyler Steen was fine last year. Maybe they'd let them compete, but I think that's kind of a weird situation. Steen waits his turn. He thinks he's going to be the starter 2 years ago. Then Becton takes that job. Becton leaves. Steen starts and was like not the weak link. Everyone expected him to be the weak link, and he wasn't. I think that was probably more about the other guys than it was about him. But I thought he played fine. Uh, I maybe Becton could come back and be a backup guard tackle. I kind of don't see it. I think he's going to
No.
end up somewhere else.
Okay.
And Stoutland's a big part of that. And
Sure.
it's kind of a weird new world that we're in without Stout, because for the last decade plus, everything offensive line wise was about, not only what Stout would want in an offensive lineman, but this just trust that he was going to get the most out of players. And he did it like for pretty much everyone. I mean, there are a few cases where it didn't work out. If you want to look at like Andre Dillard or I don't know, Chance Warmack, right? Like there are a few cases where
Yeah.
it didn't quite work out, but his
Right.
track record was pretty unbelievable. And it's unrealistic, I think, to expect Chris Cooper or whoever else ends up here in the future to have that level of success.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, Dave, the guys that you mentioned, they do have like a little stable of young offensive linemen that are like in almost in their like personal development program.
Mm-hmm.
Willie Lampkin is another guy that they have kind of in the mix.
Big Willie.
And
Not so big, Willie.
yeah, yeah, it's interesting to see how this new offensive scheme will be developing with this existing set of players. Outside of guys that you see that could potentially come in from outside the organization.
Yeah, I think tight end is a position like we've talked about. There's just not much there. And there's a pretty decent free agency class of tight ends. If Goddard's kind of toward the top of the market, I think Isaiah Likely is probably going to be out of their price range.
Yeah.
Okay.
But like a Charlie Kolar is someone who I think has been like a little underutilized in his career. I think he would really fit the blocking elements, and I think he's been, um, a little underutilized as a pass catcher. So a Charlie Kolar makes a lot of sense. David Njoku from Cleveland. I don't think he's going to cost a ton. He's not a great blocker, but he's big.
So athletic.
He's just
Absolutely.
Yeah.
he's a
Sign
crazy
me up.
athlete. I remember seeing him
All
when
day.
the Browns were here for joint practices, and he seemed
Mhm.
to fit in right away. Like I think he's a guy who would probably like to play here. So
Okay.
uh,
Yeah,
yeah,
Kolar was
there are a few tight ends that make some sense. Uh, if we're looking at the other side of the ball, if they can't re-sign Jalen Phillips, Bradley Chubb lines up for a lot of reasons. One, obviously, the familiarity
Vic,
of Vic,
Vic, yeah.
Yeah.
but also he was released. So it's something to remember as we go into free agency. The Eagles are going to be playing the compensatory pick game. So
Yeah.
any player who gets released doesn't count toward that formula. So you can sign those guys and not have to worry about them canceling out. Say if Jalen Phillips leaves, you don't have to worry about signing Bradley Chubb and it cancels him out. That's not the way it works. So you can still hold on to those comp picks. You can play that game, but also bring in some talent.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like the and you had mentioned like the position opposite of Quinion Mitchell. And any defensive backs that intrigue you that are kind of in that same mold?
Yeah, there are a few. Like I know everyone's talking about Reek Woolen. I think it'd be like a buy low right now type of a cornerback acquisition. So like maybe that makes sense. There are some safeties on the market. Honestly, I'd be interested in bringing back Marcus Epps. I think he
Okay.
played fairly well last year. I think he's a reliable player. You already have him in the building. We'll see. I'm curious to figure out which players get released. We started seeing some players get released today. I think in the next few days there are going to be other guys who end up getting released. And like I said, with the comp pick formula, I do think it makes a lot of sense to pay attention to some of those players. Like maybe a Nick Cross, a guy from Maryland I really liked a few years ago. He's going to be a free agent in the safety market. So if Reed Blankenship gets paid 10 mil a year, I don't think you want to do that. But if you can find a $5 million player or year player, I think that guy exists out there if it's the right one.
Yeah. Any interest in like I know you had mentioned bringing back Jalen Phillips, but like we also we also saw the news in the last couple of days with Trey Hendrickson, right? And that if the Jalen Phillips if that market doesn't facilitate the way that they think it should, and anything and any inkling that they might be interested in a guy like that. I mean, I think a lot of teams are going to be. I think it's
Yeah,
obvious
I
to
know
say a
that
lot of
they've had
teams.
interest in him before. I think he's going to get really, really paid. So if you're
Yeah.
not going to
Okay.
I think their preference would be to keep Jalen Phillips
Yeah.
in the building. If they can't
Hmm.
do that, I have a hard time imagining they'd be able to pay Trey Hendrickson. And also, like from
Yeah.
not that Trey Hendrickson couldn't play in this scheme, I don't think it'd be the perfect marriage.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he's more of a 4-3 defensive end, whereas Phillips kind of is a 34 outside backer. You could say the same thing about Max Crosby. I think they're better scheme fits than Hendrickson. And not that I don't like Trey Hendrickson. I think he's a really good player.
Hmm.
He's gonna get paid, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Last
don't think
contract.
he's in. If we're talking about over the last few years, the Eagles, who have they been interested in? Miles Garrett, Micah Parsons, who are kind of in a class of their own. If if Max Crosby's not in that class, he's maybe like half a step below. I think he's really close. Trey
Hmm.
Hendrickson to me is a really good player. I think he's a step below those guys, and I wouldn't pay the money that it takes to get like one of those elite guys for him right now.
How about quarterback, Dave? What's do you see them being able to hang on to Tanner McKee? Do you think a team is going to offer something high or even I mean in the draft? I mean, do you see them going that route if McKee moves on? Do you think they sign a veteran backup? How do you see how do you see any of that playing out?
Yeah, well, with McKee first, like this is really a case where you don't have to trade him. So AJ Brown, I think, might be some more posturing that you don't have to trade him. But with McKee, like there really isn't like you can hold on to him for a year, you can keep him as your backup, and then maybe he'll get paid on the open market the following year, and you get a comp pick back. So I think that it really is a case where you wait it out, and if a team falls in love with a Tanner McKee, you'd be willing to trade him. I would want to have conditions on that trade if possible. So, maybe a 3 that turns into a 2 if he ends up being the starter or throws for X amount of yards or whatever it is. Because I think you want to protect yourself if you end up trading away a guy who's a starting quarterback, right? Like you want to have those protections in there. And any team trading for him, I think would be thrilled, like if they get a quality starting quarterback for a second round pick. So, but I think it's not like he's earned it. I've heard like Jets fans push back because I know the Jets have been obviously they're a team that needs a quarterback. Push back with the idea of like what has he done to warrant a day 2 pick? Like nothing. No, he hasn't done enough to warrant that. But we're projecting here. Like we're projecting Malik Willis to get $30 million a year. He hasn't
Right.
paid
Which is
What have
nuts.
any of the Jets quarterbacks in the past 10 years done to warrant a day 2
Yeah,
pick?
so
Nothing.
So I think if a team wants to offer the Eagles something, they'd have to take it, but it would also be contingent on them having some sort of a plan to replace him. And back to your question, like I don't think it would be a rookie. I don't think they would go into this season with a rookie as their backup quarterback. I think it would be a veteran. Whether it's funny, there are a few former Eagles who are going to be available, whether it's Gardner Minshew or Kenny Pickett. I'd be fine with that. Like I really would. I think that'd be totally fine. Those guys aren't going to make it. Even if Joe Flacco's available, if you want to go that route,
Hey, man, he can
Air
still
it out,
swing it.
baby.
He can still swing it,
honestly,
man.
he
He can
played
still
really
swing
well
it.
last year. I wouldn't hate that, but
That's Pro Bowl Joe Flacco
He
to you
is.
guys.
Still elite, and like if you want to go that route, I think that's what they would do, and they might still draft one on day 3 because that's kind of what they do. They're happy to keep drafting quarterbacks and trying to develop them. We saw them do that just recently, so I wouldn't rule that out, but I don't think anyone they draft would be the backup.
What do you think your biggest surprise of either the draft or the free agency is going to be? It doesn't have to be with the Eagles. Just in general, what are you getting a feeling for? Just
That's,
across the league.
yeah, that's interesting. I'll try to keep it Eagles centric. I don't know what would qualify as a surprise. I think they're going to keep Jalen Phillips.
I love that.
I do. To me, I just look at it and I understand that the market might go crazy for him, and maybe there has to be a walkaway number, but he's a 26-year-old former first round pick. We know he fits the defense. He plays the premier position, and this might be unpopular. If like, I don't know what they think about Nolan Smith long term, but I have serious concerns. I do. Like he has a recurring injury.
Yeah.
He's undersized. I think they're going to pick up the 5th-year option on him, but I don't know what happens after that. I don't think he's going to get a contract extension this offseason. I don't think that's good for him. I don't think that's good for the team. Right now, if you ask me, I'd prefer to have Jalen Phillips long term than Nolan Smith. Just would. I think he also gives them a compliment at that position that they don't have. He's kind of the bigger body. He's a 265-pound edge rusher where, right now they have Nolan and Jalix who are kind of very similar build. And I'm very, very bullish on Jalix Hunt. I think his ceiling is crazy high. For the Eagles, I think keeping Jalen Phillips just makes a ton of sense to me. I'd make him priority number 1. Not saying do anything to keep him because there has to be a walkaway number. I don't think you're going to pay him over $25 million a year, but he's someone that I do think makes a lot of sense to keep.
Yeah, and Dave, I think I would look at the draft in that, and if they draft that, if they draft a player at that position high, I think we could find them in the same kind of position that we're in with like Nakobe Dean, that like they have the depth at a position. They have a guy that's going to be young and cheap and on a rookie deal, and if they're also signing Jalen Phillips, then there is the I'll put it in air quotes, the depth to be able to kind of let him kind of test the market a little bit. And then like there are some intriguing guys at safety, right? Like Cam Curl and Jaquan Brisker, Kobe Bryant. Those are guys that like could kind of fill that role as Reed leaves. Any of those guys intrigue you at all?
Yeah, Cam Curl is someone I'd be interested in. I mentioned Nick Cross earlier. Um, yeah, there are guys who are going to be available at safety. I don't know what the market is. It was funny, like watching some of the safeties at the combine. You go, I don't know if I'm paying Reed Blankenship $10 million a year when, like, I don't know if the drop off is that great. But yeah, those are good names. Like to me, Cam Curl of the names you listed is the one I'd be most intrigued by. A Kobe Bryant would be fine too. A guy that I really liked, gosh, a few years ago. It's funny. It's like, did he come out of college 2 years ago or 10 years ago at this point? It all runs together. But
Yeah.
yeah, he's someone I'd be interested by too. And I that's the thing. It's like I think some of those guys are going to get paid less than Reed Blankenship, and I'd be okay with that.
Dave, around the division, anything like if we want to go kind of team by team, like I know that if we start in Dallas, right, the acquisition of Christian Parker to lead that defense does kind of leave the door open for some of these Eagles defensive free agents. Considering the connection there, the likelihood that some of those guys follow Christian to Dallas. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think Nakobe Dean's going to end up there. Linebacker has been so important to Vic Fangio. I think it's going to be important to Christian Parker. And the idea of that defense with Nakobe and Overshone in the middle, like Nakobe plays the mic, Overshone is super athletic. He gets to just play the other spot. I think that makes a lot of sense. Like it's going to sting Eagles fans to see if that happens, Nakobe in Cowboys gear. But like to me, that makes a lot of sense. Maybe Reed, but I would put Nakobe over Reed, honestly, because Christian Parker's background is defensive backs. I think he might look at this like I can get more out of less at that spot, whereas he might want to put a premium on getting the linebacker in there and playing like those linebackers behind Quinnen Williams is a pretty good recipe. Like that's a really good place to start for that defense. And I like Christian Parker. I think Eagles fans probably know what a lot of the beat core thinks of Parker, just having been around him for a few years. Not surprised that he's a DC. Just a massive upgrade over Matt Eberflus in Dallas. I think he's going to be really good if they're able to get him talent. If they get a commitment from Jerry Jones, he's not going to screw it up. Like,
good luck with that.
Yeah, I really think that
Not happening.
Christian Parker is going to be an excellent DC.
Yeah,
it's great.
And then the team that I think probably has the most potential to upgrade is in New York, right? Mm-hmm. The addition of John Harbaugh and the leadership and stability that he brings, combined with the beginnings of a young, talented, combination with Dart and Scadaboo. Where do you kind of put them in the mix in the East?
Yeah, I think they're going to be better. Very intrigued by the coaching staff Harbaugh put together. It's not just Harbaugh guys. Like he did a good job of making it like an eclectic mix. Fascinated by that coaching staff. I think he'll bring at least some stability to that franchise. I think the roster stinks, to be honest with you. It's just not a very good roster right now. Yeah. And a lot of, if we're projecting them, it's like, do you believe in Jackson Dart or not? I don't know. I don't know yet. I haven't seen enough to definitively think he's the guy. To the point where if this was a better quarterback class, I think it would be very interesting right now what they would be thinking going into this draft. I think the fact that it's not super top heavy at quarterback takes that away, and you're going, okay, of course Jackson Dart's our guy, but I'd be fascinated to see in like an alternate universe if this was a better quarterback class, like would they be all in on Jackson Dart, or would they really think about it? Because Yeah, he was like spunky last year and he played well and he showed a lot. I also wonder if he's going to be able to stay healthy with his
Right.
play style.
Yep.
So like so much hinges on him, and like I don't think the team around him is very talented. They have draft picks. I think they have some good core players, but I don't think they'll be competing this year at least.
And then in Washington, like the Commanders spent last offseason getting older, getting
It was
less
like a master
efficient.
class in what not to do in free agency.
Yeah.
Can they get
Yeah.
any older?
Do the
is
opposite of
question.
this.
Yeah, do the opposite. Yeah, do the opposite of what they did
Do the
last year.
opposite of this.
Like the Javon Kinlaw contract to me is when I go back to. It's like, what were they doing? It's like they had money burning a hole in their pocket, and they're like, we got to spend it, and they just spent it on not just old players, but like old players who were never great players. Like, so yeah, they got to move on from a lot of those guys. I think they will. I'm a Jaden Daniels believer. I am. I think he's a really good player. Now, can they surround him with enough talent? I don't know yet. Um, yeah, I think they'll take a little step forward this year, but like if we step back, I still think it's the Eagles' division to win or to lose, I guess to say, after they won it the last couple of years. I think if any team gives them a run this year, it probably would be the Cowboys because their problem was not offense last year, their problem was defense, and I do expect them to be better on defense. I expect them to spend some money. I know they don't have a lot of money; they just finally got cap compliant, but
Yeah.
if they spend anywhere in free agency, I think it will be on the defensive side.
Defense, right?
Yeah. Any surprise moves you think, guys, that are going to shock you that move anywhere? Guys, any guys that you think big names that get cut, that get released?
Oh, that's a good question. It's tough to say because I don't really know the contract status around the league. Yeah, there are always some guys. It's funny though. I got told a long time ago because you always hear these cuts as being like cap casualties, and I've heard agents tell me before like there's no such thing as a cap casualty because if you're good enough, they keep you. And it's like the guys who were cap casualties weren't worth what they were getting paid or weren't worth what they were, you know, counting against on the cap. So there's always some like minor surprises. Like the ones that we've heard so far, I don't think have qualified. I saw Jonathan Allen getting cut. And a lot of times at this time of year too, like we hear teams trying to make a trade for a player. It's really like they're going to get cut. It's about whether or not you can jump the line. So, yeah, I don't have any names for you right now. And honestly, I haven't probably done a great enough job of scouring the league and trying to figure out where those surprise cuts might come. Right now, the Eagles don't really have anyone who I think would fit that description. They're going to cut Michael Carter, but no one who's like shocking. And I've heard people suggest they cut like a Sidney Brown or a Keely Ringo. To me, that doesn't make sense. Like you hold on to those guys for now, and then you see what happens in the summer.
Yeah.
Dave, what are your impressions and thoughts and feelings so far? I mean, we're only in March, but with the addition of Sean Mannion and some of these other, the quarterback coaches and the other guys that they've brought in with all this experience, do you think? How do you see the offensive scheme and how Mannion's going to fit in and how that's going to play out?
I'm intrigued by Mannion, and when we go back to the offensive coaching staff search and the OC search, there was a point, and I feel bad because I was really ragging on Matt Nagy for a while, but I called it like the Nagy line, and it was sure you want experience, you want a guy who's called plays, but anything below Matt Nagy to me wasn't worth it. It was like at that point, take a big swing, bring in a coach who still might be ascending, who could maybe maximize your talent. So Mannion to me counts as that. Like once you get past, like obviously Mike McDaniel would have been the best of both worlds, I think. But beyond that, I like the hire of Mannion. I don't know what's going to work out. And I was in Indianapolis last week for the combine, and I pretty much everyone I ran into, I asked about Mannion, whether they knew him or they didn't know him. And I think I wrote this, but I didn't find anyone to say a bad word about Sean Mannion. And that includes coaches that are not very fond of the Eagles or their staff or the head coach. They all like Sean Mannion. They all think he's a talented coach. Now, some of them don't know exactly how it's going to work out. I don't think anyone really does, but it's a fun big swing for this team. And you know, the one weird thing is that there are so many teams running this version of offense. It's become the en vogue version of offense around the league, and sometimes it works chasing a scheme, and sometimes it doesn't work. Yeah, I think back to 2023 when they hired Sean Desai because they wanted to run a Vic Fangio scheme, and they said, "Well, this guy coached under him, that'll work," and it obviously didn't. So it's not enough to just have the scheme. You have to have the guy that can run it and the guy who can be a good coach. And fascinated to see if it's Sean Mannion. I think it helps that as much as it hurts to lose Jeff Stoutland, I think it does help to bring in a couple of coaches that he's has familiarity with, coaches that have coached in this type of scheme, because it's going to be a massive shift. And I think they needed a massive shift after what we saw last year. It's like they just couldn't retool and try to run it back with that version of their offense. And even like 2024, Kellen Moore, that wasn't really Kellen Moore's offense. I think we know that based on his previous history and what he's done since in New Orleans. It was, you know, some Kellen Moore concepts, and it was a lot of what they'd always done under Nick Sirianni. I think this is going to look much different. I really do think this is going to be more wholesale changes, and you'll be able to see them. Like, it's not like here and there you see maybe there's a motion, this or that. Like, it's going to look like a different offense, and I think it's a good thing. I don't know if it's going to work, but I think it's better than the alternative of trying to retool a little bit and half-assing it and then trying to run it back this year.
Yeah, what are the chances that Nick is able to keep his hands out of the cooking jar?
Yeah, I don't know.
I guess that remains to be seen.
Yeah, it's a good question because it does look, and this was Nick's hire. I know that people are thinking this was Jeffrey Lurie, this was Howie Roseman. It wasn't. Like, they had input for sure, but Nick landed on Sean Mannion, and to me, this kind of feels like Jeffrey Lurie saying, "Hey, figure this out, and if you can't, we know what's going to happen." And that gives me a little pause when you ask, like, if he's going to be able to step aside, because think about, like, if your job's on the line, you're gonna want to go down swinging, right? You're gonna want to go down.
Yeah.
And he is an offensive coach. He's like, he was an offensive coordinator, and that's going to be a fascinating storyline of this season. Like, what happens if they lose 3 games in a row and the offense is sputtering? What then? Like, does he just trust Sean Mannion to get out of it? He didn't trust Kevin Patullo to get out of it last year. He started to be more involved, and I don't want to say overstepped, he's the head coach, but he stepped into different areas, and one of those areas was the run game, and it seemed to alienate the offensive line coach that was here. So it's, to me, that's one of the more fascinating storylines of this season, is like, how does Nick navigate his role, and does Sean Mannion really have as much power, and not power, but does he have as much sway and autonomy as they're saying he will? It's nice to say it now, but let's like actually see what happens when things get real.
Yeah.
And Dave, the way that the offensive roster is currently constructed, who's the guy that you think is going to benefit the most from this new style of offense?
Yeah, Devontae Smith. I don't think it's even close. And we started to talk about this when Kellen Moore came to town, just that any change of a scheme that's less stagnant helps. Like, Devontae is such a versatile player, and we saw it at Alabama, and I think that's like, there's proof of being able to, and at times they did, right? Like, they'd always have some BS like bubble screen for him, or like a tunnel screen for him, or they'd like run an end around. Like, every once in a while you'd see like a glimpse of it, but they haven't unlocked him. And I think a lot of the buzz around Devontae Smith this offseason is the Eagles thinking like, all right, well, if AJ's not here, we need to know, like, let people know that Devontae's capable of being wide receiver 1. I think he is. I think he's, you know, one of the most talented receivers in the league. And so to me, like, there's not even you could maybe say Saquon just because the run game might be better, but it's Devontae Smith by a mile.
I love that. I can't wait to see Devontae Smith unlocked.
Yeah.
He might be the most well-liked Eagle on the team right now. and he might be one of the most well liked athletes in the city. There's no one who doesn't like Devontae Smith.
No, he's the man. He's so funny. The juicer thing had me dying when he was talking about
He
it.
was
I
like,
was losing. I'm like, this is great. He's
he's
one of
he,
us. He's just excited over a juicer. I'm the
he's
same way.
he's like very sneaky funny,
Yeah.
and he doesn't show it all the time. But yeah, he's a funny guy, and he's just like very normal. He's just a very normal dude.
Yeah, he was a construction worker. Well, I think it was on. I think he posted it yesterday or the day before. He was dressed as a construction worker.
He was just going to work. It's the
He's
off
like,
season.
I had a career change.
A few years ago, I had to do
Yeah.
this interview with Devontae.
It's great.
Like sometimes these players will do like, a PR, we call it car wash, and they're like hawking a product, and each company, I'm on a Zoom with him. They tell me you get 15 minutes with Devontae. 15 minutes with Devontae Smith. That might as well be 4 hours. Like he's not like, and he pops up on my screen, and he had probably done like 5 before that, and he just like was not into it, which I get. Like he's in his gaming chair. He'd much rather be playing Call of Duty. And like we went, and I was like, anytime I found something he like moderately wanted to talk about, I'm like, we're taking it there for the next few minutes, and we're gonna see how much we can get out of this. I think it lasted like 12 minutes, and I was like, I'm good. We made it almost 15, and it's gonna be okay.
Oh, that's great. Dave, listen, I know that you're a big national parks guy. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you what is your top 5 national parks that you've been to?
Ooh, okay. Glacier National Park would be number 1. Yosemite in California would be number 2. Number 3, that's where after that it gets a little tougher. Number 3, Death Valley in California. I haven't been to all of them. Death Valley I really like. I'll go Yellowstone at 4, and then 5. I'll say Zion, which is really cool. It's just so crowded that it's a little tough.
How many have you been to?
43.
Wow.
Yeah, there's 63. So
I got a long way to go.
yeah, well, it's tough. I've done like
I've been to Ridley National Park. I've never been there. It's a
Where's
hell
that,
of a
Rich?
time.
it's tough 'cause I've
How
been to
far is
all the
that?
ones
How
that's, like,
far away
easy
is
to
that,
get
Rich?
to.
It's got a Wawa there. It's beautiful. You would love it.
Yeah, once you do the easy, like now, like there's 7 in Alaska. Like it's tough to get there and do them all.
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I'd like to cross them all off one day. It's gonna be tough.
That's awesome.
Nice. Dave, where did your fascination come with the flight path? I know that's sometimes that's part of like the post game pod, but the bird flight path.
Oh, like the actual eagle.
Yeah.
I just like I think it's cool. So a few years ago they had so like during the national anthem they have the Raptor Center in it's like North Carolina. They fly these birds up, and it used to be Challenger. It was like Challenger is the goat of the national anthem flight birds. And then a few years ago Challenger like retired, so Lincoln has been the new one. So I've watched. I feel like I've watched Lincoln's progress, and I get to the stadium early enough that I normally see the like the warm up. So I know if it's going to be a good flight or a bad flight based on the warm up. So yeah, I don't know. I like Eagles.
Nice.
Yeah, the Eagles bring the Elmwood Park Zoo has a couple of like they call them like live mascots, and they bring them to training camp. They bring them to the games, and those guys are cool too. Noah and Reggie.
Yeah. So the school that I teach at is right behind the Elmwood Zoo. So I have some friends at the Elmwood Zoo. So like it is interesting to hear that like the backstory behind that, because originally I thought like, oh well, these are the birds and they're like, no, these ones don't fly.
Yeah, those birds are all like
Yeah.
they I don't think any of them can fly.
Yeah.
It was cool. We did a story at the Elmwood Park Zoo in the summer, just like me and a videographer kind of like shooting these birds a little bit, and they're like, "You want to see where they live?" And I said, "Yeah, of course. We're here. Let's go." And they brought out Stella, the temple owl.
Yes.
I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. I felt like I met a celebrity at the zoo.
Yeah, it's it is that kind of stuff I find like the little backstory. But I remember in a former life, I was on the grounds crew of the Eagles when the stadium opened, and I remember one of the flight paths one time when they were doing it pregame. It must have found something that was crawling on the and center logo, and it's just picking apart this, and they just had to kind of just leave it alone.
Well, we always talk in the press box. It's I sit next to Jimmy Kemsky and Elliott Shore Parks, and we always like joke like, what would happen if the eagle just went rogue? Like, do they have to? They probably couldn't play the game with an eagle just flying around. They'd probably have to pause the game and figure it out.
The fans would love it. They would
yeah.
go nuts.
I've always thought about like what would be the like how long would that delay be?
Oh my goodness.
God.
We got a bird of prey delay. Don't worry about it. Hide your popcorn, folks.
Hide your kids. Hide your small children.
Hide your small children. I just want your Miller Lite. Let it go. Let it go. It'll be fine. Oh, that's great.
Gentlemen, do you have anything else for Dave before we jump out of here?
Dave, I have to ask because my son asked me to ask you, and I know we already discussed a little bit of their a little bit of their demise last year. But if there were one coach or player where we could kind of put the blame on where that kind of went south last year, would you be able to give any tidbit or any information on that?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think obviously the obvious answer is Kevin Patullo. He wasn't very good in that role. I did think that there were times where he got too much blame and some of the other elements kind of skated by, whether like ultimately it was Nick Sirianni's offense, right? Like, and it wasn't good enough. I know Kevin was calling the plays and he wasn't good enough at it, but there were times where I thought Nick was kind of skating by without enough blame. And then like not one player, but the offensive line. And I think a lot of that was injury based, but I mean, you had no Lane Johnson for a long time. You had a center who was banged up. You had a left guard who was banged up. They just weren't as good up front. And when your run game is off, like everything is going to
everything falls. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, I think not one particular player on the O-line, but like O-line in general, like if they had a healthy O-line, I'd be fascinated to see what this team would look like right now.
Sure. Yeah. Sure. Thank you.
Dave, the only thing I have for you is what is one of your favorite Eagles memories just from doing what you do?
Yeah, I mean, so I did cover the Super Bowl in Minnesota, so that was obviously really cool. One of my favorite parts of that was after the game was over, we're in the locker room, and it was actually like a subdued celebration. Like the one in 24 was wild. It was like champagne, beer float, like spraying everywhere. The one in 17 was kind of quieter, but we were looking, like I had my phone out and I was watching videos that I'm seeing on Twitter or Instagram or whatever from back in Philly, like on Broad Street, people partying. I remember like me with players, like looking at those videos and everyone were like, man, let's get home. Like we don't want to be here in like a whatever locker room. That was cool because it was like the players, I think at that, like they always knew that it meant a lot, but I think they started in that moment to like understand how much it meant to everyone that they'd won it all.
That's incredible. That's awesome.
What a moment. What a moment.
Well, Dave, we can't thank you enough. This was wonderful. We really appreciate you coming on and kind of sharing your wealth of knowledge. Anything that you would like to share with everybody before we run out of here?
No, man, I appreciate you guys. Thanks for having me. It should be a fun few weeks in free agency and then the draft. And then like before you know it, the season's here. So it's always fun.
Yeah.
Never.
All right, Rich. Take us out of here.
Well, we are Drunk on Broad. I am Rich. Dave Zangaro, thank you for joining us. Don, Joe, as always. Yep. How we end it. You stuck around, you fucked around, you found out. So it's unfortunately it's fuck Deshaun Watson, fuck Davion Taylor. Don't worry, Dave, it's an inside thing. It's okay. And as always, it's fuck the Cowboys. We're Drunk on Broad. Philly, we love you.
Go Birds.
Go Birds.
Go Birds. Thank you, Dave.